Now that the Republican Party is in charge of all branches of government, they are now giving the same banks whose reckless behavior crashed the economy in 2008 even more autonomy. They're empowering them to do the same exact thing, but what the Republicans are doing now is they're taking it a step further. And the Republican Party is now making it more difficult for us to seek legal recourse against these crooks. So according to Jim Pazangera of the Los Angeles Times, he reports that the Senate voted Tuesday night to kill a controversial rule that would have allowed Americans to file class action lawsuits against banks instead of being forced in many cases into private arbitration. The move by the Senate followed a similar action by the House in July to rescind the rule. President Trump is expected to sign the repeal legislation, providing a major victory for the financial industry. Vice President Mike Pence cast the deciding vote after the Senate tied 50-50. All but two Republicans, John Kennedy of Louisiana and Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, voted to repeal the rule. No Democrats or independents supported the move. The determinations of an arbitrator are binding, and consumer advocates say most decisions favor the company. The private proceedings also allow banks to deal with individual problems quietly rather than address widespread abuses. George Slover, Senior Policy Counsel for Consumers Union, said the vote means that big financial companies can lock the courthouse doors and prevent consumers who've been mistreated from joining together to seek the relief they deserve under the law. Democrats cited the Wells Fargo case and the recent massive data breach at credit reporting company Equifax as proof that the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rule was needed to protect consumers from abuses. For years, Wells Fargo used arbitration clauses to block lawsuits from customers who alleged that unauthorized accounts had been opened in their names. Ultimately, the bank estimated that as many as 3.5 million such accounts were opened. Equifax has been criticized for initially making consumers give up their right to sue if they wanted to take advantage of the company's offer of free credit monitoring and identity theft protection after the breach. Equifax later backtracked on that requirement after a public uproar. Now, can anybody guess why the Republican Party wants to give the big banks even more power than they already have? You just have to follow the money. The Republican Party, they no longer even hide the fact that they have been bought off by the big banks on Wall Street. They don't even hide it. They just brazenly legislate in favor of these big banks and make it less difficult for us to sue them when it comes to these class action lawsuits. Now, the reason why they don't like class action lawsuits is because, one, well, these raise a lot of attention. These have the tendency to attract media coverage. And two, well, when they are subjected to private arbitration, well, it's going to most likely go in their favor. So all of this is just the Republicans rigging the entire system against the many in favor of the few. It is sheer corruption, and there's no other explanation as to why they would vociferously campaign for something as egregious as this, because this rule is important. And I mean, for Mike Pence to come and cast a tie-breaking vote, it just shows how corrupt the Republican Party is, and they don't even care about that corruption, because clearly, anytime you have the vice president coming to the Senate to break a tie, that's going to draw attention to the issue, and you'd think they wouldn't want to be so conspicuous in their corruption, but the Republican Party, they don't give a damn. They are shameless in their corruption, and this just shows that they don't care about you. They care about their donors' interests, and if you are one of the individuals that continue to vote for this corporate sellout party, then, you played yourself.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.